Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Fatmata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art. Eid Mubarak. Editing Fatmata here. This video was recorded over a week ago and I also get quite rambly. There are chapters down below for your convenience. Enjoy! Eid Mubarak. If you celebrated Eid recently, I hope you had a wonderful time. My family and I had a fabulous Eid. It's our celebration after the month of Ramadan, after a month of fasting and supplication and prayer and charity and so much other goodness. You do many of these things throughout the year anyways, but to have a concentrated, dedicated month of fasting in addition to additional acts of worship, it's just fabulous. As I'm recording this, today is Monday, April 1st, and yesterday was Eid, Sunday, and we had a fabulous time with family and friends, and we gathered together for prayer, but also went to my parents' house and all my cousins, and we have a large family, so lots of people got together, and it was awesome to see everyone and celebrate with them. And we got to cut a little cake for my son who turned 1 on Saturday, so it was a good time. So for Eid, I did not wear me-made, but I wore the dress that I have on right now. One of my family members gifted me this dress when I went to Guinea a couple of summers ago, and it was very nice. I'm happy that I fit into it again after the baby, so that was great. I noticed that in the package along with the dress, the excess fabric that I would most likely be able to wear as a head wrap was left in the bag with it. So it was really nice because it was wide enough for me to get something made up for my daughter. So this dress I actually made for my daughter. I've been on a butterfly abaya or a kaftan kick over the past couple of weeks. And it was really nice because this was just wide enough and long enough that I could get a dress for my daughter out of this. I wanted to keep it simple, so I used the width of the fabric that I had. I angled the shoulders for her so that it sloped down. I put bias binding around a neckline for her. I added this gorgeous lace trim to the ends with a French seam on the inside there for her. I picked up this lace when I was in Guinea as well. I closed off the edges there. On the inside, I used this ribbon. So I put 2 ties here on the inside, and that's what she ties around her body on the inside. And otherwise, it's pretty free-flowing. Super simple. And then she got to match me, so that was really nice. Now the big thing that I was working on for Eid was my cousin's butterfly abaya, and we finished it, so I wanted to show you that. I feel like this kaftan, this abaya, was definitely the star of the show. She picked out an excellent fabric. I will see if I can link to the Etsy shop where she got it. Again, it is a liquefied organza, I believe is what it's called. And it just has the most beautiful sheen to it. It's got a decent amount of structure and body, so it definitely holds its weight. It is opaque. You cannot see through this at all. Very same construction method that I did for my daughters, I did on this one. So I angled the shoulder, I sloped it. I have seen folks make kaftans where they sort of leave the length of the fabric and kind of make it go straight across. But I do find that then you have a lot of excess pooling around your arm. So I did go ahead and slant from the shoulder down about 8 inches from the top. I also did a French seam to attach the ruffle all along the edge here of the fabric. I stitched the kaftan closed right here, the abaya closed here, about 5 or 6 inches away from the seam where the ruffle was attached, and that way it could sort of open up a little bit, but she would not be exposed. So it has ties on the inside, similar to how my daughter's was. After I closed off the side seams and had the neck hole open, I went ahead and allowed my cousin to try it on. Then we found where her waist was, and then I marked that point. What I found was the further apart the ties are, the more you get a cinch in. because the fabric is pulling behind you a bit more. So I pinned the ties to the inside of the abaya, had her try it on. She tied it up, and then we figured where she felt most comfortable, whether that was to move it in more, move it out, etc. We landed on this placement here. So it might be arbitrary to kind of share it with you because it was really based on what fit her and what naturally felt best and comfortable. There were a number of different ways that I could do the ruffle for the edge of the sleeve here. I could do 2 rows of basting stitches and sort of gather them. I could try my luck at doing the gathering foot from my sewing machine, but I also know that I had a ruffler foot. I had purchased this ruffler foot some time ago. It is a very clunky, big sewing foot, and if you've never seen it before, it can seem pretty intimidating. I remember I saw this used in like an infomercial and immediately fell in love with it based on all the potential that it housed. So there are a couple of features on the ruffler foot. Up here, there is the star, so that's when you don't want it to ruffle. 1, 6, and 12. This allows you to count after how many stitches it will make a pleat or a ruffle. So you could do a ruffle after, or a pleat, after 1 stitch, 6 stitches, or 12 stitches, or put it here if you don't want it to ruffle at all. This lever here, or these numbers, deal with the depth of the pleat or the ruffle that it's going to make. So it tells this mechanism, the black little lever here that's going in and out. So it is going to dictate how deep of a pleat you get. So after every 6 stitches, it is going to shove your fabric in to create a pleat, and then the stitches will then hold that pleat in place. And then after whatever your designated stitch count is, whether that's every 1 stitch, every 6 stitches, every 12 stitches, it will make that pleat, that indent like that. Which leaves you with, as you can see here, a very uniformed. So after every 6 stitches, it did a uniform pleat here, and that gave me a really beautiful ruffle. The reason why I felt comfortable using the ruffler foot in this instance was I cut out a really long strip of this fabric, and I knew that I had over double the width of the actual caftan that I needed. So based on the setting that I had, I did a test swatch with a piece of fabric that was 10 inches wide. I ruffled it down after I had, made some settings that I felt comfortable with. After every 6 stitches, I set this to 4. I don't know what that means, if that's millimeters or what have you. So I set it to 4. As it was making the pleats, it shrunk the fabric down to about 6 inches maybe. So basically it pleated it down to about half of the size, which I felt good about because this was going to be wide enough. So I went ahead and used that setting, ruffled the entire length of the fabric that I had cut out for the ruffle, and then attached it and just cut off the excess that I didn't need. So it worked in that instance where I had more fabric than I needed and felt comfortable cutting off the excess. That wasn't a problem. The ruffler foot could be really good if you're making like dresses for Project Dress a Girl or things like that, where you could just do a bunch of pleating down or ruffling at once and then use it over multiple dresses, or you're not too fussed about using everything. Or you could just play with it and do some test swatches, as I did, until it ruffles at the right rate. I feel like I just took a really long time to explain a ruffler foot, but I'll see if I can link to a tutorial online to help you if this was something that you were interested in. I bought mine, again, years ago in like a set of a lot of different sewing feet, but this was certainly one of the ones that I was drawn to the most. You can look online, it's just called ruffler foot, and then see what comes up to see if you if this is something that you're interested in. I'm not sure. Again, we had a beautiful day yesterday, so the sun was shining. I think it reflected off of the dress beautifully, and it was the star of the show. It was really, really nice, so I'm glad that I got to make this for her, and that she introduced me to a whole new silhouette that I've gone on to make like time and time and time again. I have some fabrics in my stash that I'm like, what could you be? Are you tired of hearing about the Coda quilted coat? Here it is. I just want to say this one more thing about it, because since our last video, when I showed it to you, I did remove the bottom bomber jacket band. Like I said, the fabric that I used was a nylon ribbed fabric, and it was just too thin. It was too thin for the weight of this. You could see it sort of buckling on itself. It wasn't a good choice. It wasn't substantial enough for the weight of this really dense wool fabric. So as I mentioned, I had a few scraps left, so I went ahead and did the same sort of trim to the bottom that I had done along the sides here. Cut out a really long strip, did a narrow zigzag stitch equidistant from the center, which would keep the integrity of the fabric so that I could fray the ends of it by pulling the loose threads here and creating that nice frayed effect along the edge. I brought the jacket in by about 4 inches, so I just took a wedge, like a 1-inch wedge in at both side seams, and it is still quite boxy. So I'm going to have to be mindful about this in the future when I make it. If you are new to the channel and this is the first time you're hearing about my Coda quilted coat, I had this fabric. These were remnants from a project that I helped my mom with a couple of years ago, and I just wanted to test out the Coda quilted coat pattern by Love Notions for some possible future makes. It felt low stakes because I had so little of this fabric left. I ended up having to make it very cropped because of the amount of fabric that I had available to me. I pieced together the sleeve. There are like 4 different panels in each of the sleeves, but it worked out well, and I used some denim, stretch denim remnant fabric and a satin jacquard fabric for the lining of the sleeve. It's probably going to go away now that the weather is warming up, but something that I'm curious to see how often I would wear it. I do think I have to have some sort of closure situation. So maybe bottom, center, and top, to put some hook and eye closures there so that I could kind of close it if I wanted to. But that is my Coda quilted coat in this wool fabric, and hopefully it's the last time you have to hear about this outside of like a makes video. But I think I'm done fixing, finishing, and finessing it. I think I've done as much as I can to this, and it is now done. It is now done. Another returning make, and it's just here so I could let you know that I did indeed fix my Vogue 9014 trousers. The only thing that I needed to do here was adjust the elastic. I had made the elastic too tight, went in, added elastic, made it too loose. So it's the Goldilocks of it all, and now it's just right. So I went back ahead in and top stitch that down, but it feels very comfortable. It's wearable now, and that is my Vogue 9014. Those were my make. I also helped out one of my cousins. She had bought what she thought was a butterfly abaya. It ended up being a poncho, just a long stretch of fabric with a neck hole in it. So we closed up the sides, cut the length of it to fit her, and use the extra fabric that we cut off from the bottom to create the ties and attach them to the inside of the abaya, the kaftan, so that she could wear it. And I was just like, I can't believe someone would sell this and show the pictures as if it was a butterfly abaya and not actually make it up. But that was nice. I have no photos of that, but it was something that I did on one of the evenings leading up to Eid to help her. I think she came over Friday night, so that was nice. I have not worked on this dress. Just want to be honest about that. All the times that I could have been down here working on this dress, I just looked at it and I was like, I don't, no. It's not that I don't like this dress. I just have such strong feelings towards it that I really want to get over, because I just want it to be done in a way. And I think one of the other things that is nagging at me is that I don't know if I have enough buttons to do a full button front on this, like in a color that I like to go with all of the beautiful colors in this dress. I need to know what buttons I'm going to use so I know what size buttonholes to make, and then am I doing it the full way down? So those are the things that have really stopped me, and every time I looked at the dress this week, I was like, not today, not today. So instead, for my spring break, I spent a lot of time batch cutting. And because this dress came out of a batch cutting session, so you let me know if this was a terrible idea or not. But for the amount of time that I had looking ahead, I knew that cutting was really going to be the thing that really stopped me for a lot of these projects. So I thought it was a good idea to just go ahead and batch cut things that I know I want to make this spring. Now, I recorded a spring plans video. Whether or not you're seeing that video before this, I don't know. That's for editing Fatmata to figure out. I don't know what you're going to see first. So I'm just going to tell you what I batch cut. I am going to be going to an indoor water park with my kids in a little bit. So I wanted to make another modest swimsuit set, and a part of that is going to be some leggings. So I used M7122. When I saw the little sneaky peeky of this one pattern piece legging, I knew I had to have this pattern. So the last modest swimsuit I made, I used the leggings from here. They were great. This pattern envelope that I got goes up to a size medium. So it's from the extra small to a medium, but the actual pattern goes up to an XXL, but they split it up into 2 pattern envelopes. So I think at the time of making mine the first time, noticed that I probably more so needed a large for the leggings. So I just graded up the pattern piece to what would effectively have been a large and added that to the pattern before I cut it out. So I have that here, and I went in my stash and found 3 different swimwear fabrics, these Lycra fabrics in my stash, and I cut them out. This is really fun. And it's got some black in there, and I have some black fabric that I think I can make a top out of, and whatever the offcuts are here to make a swimsuit top. I have this nice brown and white polka dot here, and then just black. They're quick makes if I don't mess up the elastic, because I've done that before too. Me and elastic, I just never get like the sizing for elastic right. I don't use the size guides, the elastic guides in patterns. I fit them to my waist, and sometimes I'm a bit overzealous because I think the elastic will stretch out over time, or it has happened to me that I make it looser or what feels comfortable, and then I actually put it in the garment and I'm like, oh, that kind of stretched out. I wish I had made it tighter. So then I make the other ones tight, but then they're too tight. It's just me and elastic. They should be pretty quick makes. I could see myself wanting to match the serger cones. So I think that's where I could potentially run into it being a bit lengthier, is just waiting until I have the right serger threads for the colors that I want to match. So I'm stash busting this year. If you've been around, you know this. It's a really big goal of mine. I actually recorded a video over spring break of me going through my fabric collection as it stands right now. I wish I would have done this like December 31st or January 1st to show you like at the top of the year exactly how the fabric stash was looking, because I've actually been tapping into a lot of my stash over these past 3 months, and I'm really proud of the progress that I've been making. I have not been fabric shopping, right? So I've already had made some progress, but I figured we're in the first quarter. Let me just go ahead and just kind of show you to date where we are, because I do intend to continue this stash busting goal. And I would love to sort of be able to track it a bit better, maybe seasonally, and say like where I'm at as the seasons come to a close. So one of the fabrics that I had in my stash was this awesome, colorful cotton fabric. This is a cotton spandex from Joann. It is from the Pop collection. I had picked this up in the clearance section maybe last year or so. I bought 4 yards of it. I just took what was left on the bolt, and I wanted to make things for my kids out of this. And as I was looking into my stash, those 4 yards were taking up quite a bit of space. We're going on a trip, and I thought it would be nice to make the matching pajamas. So I went into my stash and picked up Simplicity 1572, and they asked for the full-on onesie. I'm not making it with the feet. I'm just going to add cuffs to the bottom of it, really wide cuffs, so that they can wear them for some time to come. So here are the line drawings. You get quite a bit with this. I used this pattern for the robe 2 years ago. So I really enjoy the offerings here. I like that it's a raglan sleeve, so I like this. I cut out 2 of the onesies, one for each of my big kids. For my youngest son, I cut out pants and a top for him. I used up all 4 yards. I have 2 of the onesies, and then with the offcuts, I just cut out anything that I could. I'm gonna make some joggers for my son. I think this is the length for my son. I made my daughter some shorts. I made the youngest. I cut out pants for him, and then I borrowed from another pattern to make a top for him. When these are done, I'll have all of the patterns sort of named for you. But basically, I'm making matching pajamas for my kids. I use my rainbow serger combs, which is really fun. It's very, very fun, especially given all the colorfulness on this fabric. I thought that that would be fun to use. So that's where I'm at. I cut out about 6 projects for my kids in total. So I'm hoping to get that completed. For the onesies, I did it very like batch style in cutting, but also in sewing it. I just went ahead and got right to it. There are parts where you have to stay stitch and stabilize some of the neckline, so I was doing that on my sewing machine, but for everything else, I just went and sewed it on my overlocker. I will go back in with the sewing machine to just reinforce like the crotch curve and things like that, just to make sure that that's stable. And I, again, as I mentioned, I'm going to do a really deep sort of cuff on here that they could fold over for now, and it would sort of expand and grow with them, just because I'd love for them to have it for some time. And my next step, I think, is to insert the zipper in the onesies, and then insert the elastic in the waistbands of all of the pants and things like that. So I'm looking forward to making that for them so that they can have it for our upcoming trip. Then I batch cut. I'm watching a bird build its nest under my deck. It has built a nest at this very same spot before. I don't know if it's the same bird or if the bird told its friend that that's a really good spot. I have 2 minds. I'm of 2 minds about it because it's nature, it's natural. I don't know if I want the bird's nest right there. Okay. I then batch cut 4 dresses, which I'm so in love. I'm so in love with the fabrics that I'm using. I'm so excited about sewing up these dresses. Let me just go ahead and show you what we're working with. I cut into this fabric. I picked up this fabric in Paris when I went December of 2023. I am using this vintage Butterick pattern 3908. It is a single size pattern. I thrifted this. It's size 14, which should fit my bust. I'm very excited about it. Now, the reason why I have this length of fabric left is because I did not cut out the skirt. The skirt is short here. I wanted to see if I could extend it to maxi length. I had 3 meters of this fabric and couldn't quite get the skirt to the length that I want, which I knew was a possibility because of how much I wanted to extend it. Now, I'm trying to figure out what kind of skirt I want to put on this. I liked that this was just sort of fit and flare, very wide A-line. I would think I want something different to my usual gathered 2-tiered skirts on dresses. I do it a lot, and I'd like to try something else. So I just held off on cutting out the skirt portion, and I cut out the bodice and the sleeves. Haven't done anything with it yet, but that is set to the side. It's a cotton sateen fabric. I will link to my Paris fabric haul and you can take a look there. I forget the name of the shop that I got it from, but they were one of the very few shops that I went into that actually sold fabric off of the bolt, and I wish I would have just gotten 4 meters instead, but I picked this up and I just absolutely think it's beautiful. It's made in Italy, so it's great. But yes, beautiful cotton sateen. It was wonderful to work with and cut out, so I'm looking forward to actually sewing it up. Second is another vintage pattern. This is Vogue 9149. And I just love this sort of necktie feature. If you can see from the design lines here and the cutting layout, this is the sleeve, back yoke, and front yoke sections. It is so cool how this is cut out. I initially had a different fabric in mind for this, but as I was recording my spring plans, like switched it immediately because I remembered I have this gorgeous rayon jacquard fabric that I'd picked up at Joann. Look at the depth and the detail in this. It is just gorgeous. Now, I only had a remnant piece of this, so just about a yard, but I also have this sort of pebbled satin fabric that I believe I picked up in the dead stock section at G Street. And I just think the colors go so beautifully. This gorgeous electrifying cobalt blue. And I've always had them in my stash sort of sitting together because I always knew I wanted to use them together. But I laid out the pattern piece for the yoke section and the yoke facings, and I was able to cut it out of the rayon jacquard. So I knew it was time to shine, and I'm going to cut out the body out of the satin fabric. I do plan to line the body of this dress, mainly because this is quite a lightweight. You can kind of see me through it, yeah? It's quite lightweight as a fabric, not necessarily sheer, but when light, if light were to pass through this, you would absolutely see through it. It's also a polyester satin fabric that I think would highlight sweat stains quite obviously. So one of the things that I hope to do is to line it maybe with some sort of viscose, something that would then be against my body so that this would not like cling and be staticky to my skin. I haven't cut out like the body pattern pieces yet out of the satin fabric because when I went to go lay it out, I don't like the edge of it wasn't completely on grain, and I was like, do I want to starch the fabric first before I cut into it? I hadn't quite made a decision, so I might make a, I was gonna say a starch bath, essentially, and sort of go ahead and get this a little bit starched up so that it's easier to cut out and make my dress. Then I cut out Simplicity S9260. I have had this pattern for some time. I love the sort of princess seam, fit and flare, no waist seam design, button front all the way down. Here are the design lines. I would extend mine. I did not use the sleeves from this pattern, but I used another sleeve just so I can get a full length sleeve. I extended it, I think, by 6 inches, so I'm hoping that it could be maxi on me. I'm using this beautiful fabric that I also picked up in Paris. I love the colors in here so much. I think it's so beautiful and abstract. And I thought because of the abstract nature of this and how busy the print was, that I wouldn't be fussed about trying to match anything up along those princess seams. And I thought that that could be really nice. I plan to add some loops in these back princess seams so that I can cinch it in with like a long tie. And I got that idea from the Shelby dress by True Bias, I believe. And I love the silhouette of the Shelby dress. And I think that the design lines are quite similar to the Simplicity pattern. The Shelby dress has a V-neck while this is up higher, which I actually preferred for the Simplicity dress because I would want the neckline to be higher for me. I'm just gonna do the standing collar that's here in view A, and I'm very excited about this dress. The final dress I cut out is an oldie but a goodie. Oldie to me. Like, I've had this in my stash for some time. This is Simplicity 8908. I got it because of the simplicity of it, really. I love a casual button front dress. And I remember seeing this and thinking, this seems real simple. It's slightly dropped shoulder, has, you know, an oversized casual vibe to it. It is a single pattern piece for the sleeve. So I'm actually really excited to sew this up to see how they make this cuff detail. So it's like a faux cuff situation. As you can see, you know, it's not like buttoned or anything, is sort of notched. There's no darts, there's no fuss. So I wanted to make a matching set for the Vogue trousers that I had made, and I had a lot of this fabric left. So in order to test this out, I went ahead and cut the pattern piece out of the same fabric. So it's gonna be like a very nice, breezy, casual vacation resort wear sort of look. And yeah, it was so simple. Like very minimal pattern pieces. I'm not doing the pockets or anything. The button front placket is integrated into the bodice pieces, which is great. So you just fold it under. It's a single piece collar. So that's really nice. It doesn't have the collar stand and the actual collar. It's just one piece together. So really it's simple. I cut out a back, a front, the sleeve, and the collar. And I think that's it. I'm using 4 pattern pieces. So I'm very excited to give this a go, so that I can discover if this could be a tried and true for me. And I could very much so see myself extending it so that it's full on maxi length for me. I could do without the slits. I could expand it if I need to. At the sides, make it a bit more A-line if I wanted to, if I had the fabric for it. You know, lots of things that I think I could do with this. I had batch starched some fabrics a while ago, and this was one of them. Anyways, it just made it so much easier to cut out because it had that bit of starch in it, versus how floaty and fluid it could have been, like moving around. I don't know that you're gonna necessarily see a difference in me waving it around, but I felt it when I was cutting it, so that was nice. The final thing that I batch cut was a pair of elastic waist trousers with a pocket, and I used Simplicity 9756. This is not going to seem exciting, but I used the most gorgeous black linen. I thrifted this fabric some years ago. I actually made a McCall's dress out of this fabric, and this is the remaining bit that I had left, so I pulled that from my stash so I could go ahead and make these gorgeous pair of trousers. I somehow lost the pattern pieces for the pocket and the waistband, so it's not fully cut out. And I'm very annoyed with myself. I'd love to find those pattern pieces somewhere. I did some batch pattern piece cutting when I was cutting out all of these pattern pieces a while back, last week. And I don't know if maybe I put it in the wrong envelope, if my kids were down here playing and misplaced it. I have no idea where the button, where those pieces are, like for the pocket and for the waistband. And I know I cut them out, so I hope that they turn up. That is a lot. That is a lot. So I hope you've enjoyed that. My hope is that because they're already batch cut, I'll be able to just pop in and sew some things here and there over time. I don't know what I'm looking for right now. I hope that I'll be able to get down here, and when I have a moment to sew, just pick up a project that I'm excited to work on and get it done, which is really nice. So the other thing that happened since the last time I saw you is that I did go to G Street Fabrics, and I went because one of my cousins was in town visiting. Well, she came back to visit for the end of Ramadan and for Eid. And this is my cousin who showed me around the fabric stores when I went to Paris. So it was really, it was only right that I took her to one of my favorite places when she was in town. She had never been to G Street. That's all I have for you today. This is a lengthy video, so if you've made it to the end, thank you so much for rocking with me. I hope it was fun to see what I'm getting up to, what my plans are. and I cannot wait to share them with you as I start sewing them. If you were observing the month of Ramadan, if you celebrated Eid Mubarak, I hope you had a lovely, lovely time with family and friends. And yeah, I will see you all soon. Stay creative, folks. Bye-bye.